Who is Mewtwo? The genetic powerhouse that redefined Pokémon. Mewtwo emerged as one of the most powerful and mysterious Pokémon ever created, engineered in a lab and destined to become a legend. This video explores how this psychic titan went from an experiment to one of the most iconic figures in the entire franchise. Mewtwo isn't just a Pokémon. It's a symbol of raw power, identity, and what happens when science pushes too far. This video dives into Mewtwo's creation, its role in the games and anime, and the lasting impact it's had on fans around the world. From unforgettable battles to philosophical questions about purpose and existence, Mewtwo brought a level of depth and intensity rarely seen in the series. How did a genetically engineered warrior become one of the most compelling characters in Pokémon history? Today, we explore the story, power, and legacy of Mewtwo, the psychic legend who changed the Pokémon world forever. Welcome to Who Media, the channel where curiosity leads the way. From famous celebs and cartoon icons to legends and hidden names, we uncover the stories behind the people you know and the ones you don't. Mewtwo is one of those rare Pokémon that doesn't just feel powerful. It feels mythic. Even people who don't know a single thing about Pokémon have at least heard whisperings of this psychic menace with cold eyes, near godlike abilities, and a backstory that hits way heavier than anyone expected from a kid's franchise. Mewtwo isn't the cute, comforting mascot like Pikachu. It isn't the fan-favorite dragon like Charizard. It's something else entirely. The franchise's first real look at what happens when science, ethics, power, and loneliness collide. And honestly, that's why Mewtwo will always be one of the most iconic creatures the series ever created. Let's be honest right out of the gate. Mewtwo doesn't have the cheerful, wholesome origin story that most Pokémon get. Nobody found it in the woods. Nobody befriended it as a baby. Mewtwo wasn't discovered. It was manufactured. The scientists in the Pokémon world basically looked the rarest Pokémon, Mew, and went, yeah, this is cool, but what if we crank it up to 100 and see what happens? So they cloned it, enhanced it, modified it, and tried to create something beyond nature. And surprise, surprise, that something looked around, realized it was made to be used, and snapped harder than your Wi-Fi during a storm. From the moment Mewtwo opened its eyes, it questioned everything. Who created me? Why? What's my purpose? Why does the world treat me like a weapon instead of a living being? Those are heavy questions for a franchise that also gave us a floating balloon that steals kids. But that contrast is what makes Mewtwo so fascinating. It's basically Pokemon's version of Frankenstein's monster, except with psychic abilities capable of flattening mountains and flipping entire stadiums upside down. The moment Mewtwo decided it didn't want to be controlled anymore, everything in its path got wiped. And this wasn't the, it's confused and doesn't know better kind of dangerous. Mewtwo is calculating. Precise, intensely intelligent. It figured out humans manipulate and use Pokémon for their own goals, and it didn't take that discovery gently. It looked at the world with the quiet rage of someone who knows they were born into a cage. Honestly, if you think about it, Mewtwo's not even the villain in its own story. It's the victim trying to claw back control. The Pokémon anime didn't waste time making Mewtwo one-dimensional. When Pokémon the first movie dropped in 1998, it hit like an emotional truck. Kids came to the theater expecting fun monsters and cool battles, and instead got punched in the face by a story about identity, existential dread, and what it means to be alive. Mewtwo starts the movie angry, bitter, and ready to judge the entire world for the sins of a handful of scientists. And honestly, you can't really blame it. If you woke up as a lab experiment with memories of pain and manipulation, you'd be throwing furniture too. But what made Mewtwo iconic wasn't just the destruction. It was the growth. Through the movie, Mewtwo slowly realizes that maybe its existence isn't defined by who created it, but by what it chooses to be. The ending, with Mewtwo deciding to stop blaming the world and instead find meaning on its own terms, gave kids a life lesson wrapped in psychic explosions. And that moment with Ash turning to stone? Yeah, that one emotionally scarred an entire generation so hard, we're still talking about it 25 years later. The wild thing is that Mewtwo isn't just a story powerhouse. It's a gameplay monster too. In the original games, this thing was the Pokémon equivalent of a final boss. The moment you beat the Elite Four, the game basically whispers, hey, Go check out that cave we wouldn't let you enter before. And inside sits Mewtwo, like a silent guardian testing whether you're worthy. If you walked in unprepared, too bad. Mewtwo wiped your entire team like they were training dummies. Master Ball or not, encountering Mewtwo felt like stepping into a room with a wild animal that absolutely knew it was stronger than you. And let's not pretend the Psychic-type dominance of Gen 1 didn't help Mewtwo's reputation. Back then, Psychic types were busted beyond belief. Barely any weaknesses, insane stats, and access to moves that basically gave opponents no chance. So when Mewtwo rolled in with its towering special stat and moves like Psychic, Recover, and Amnesia, it wasn't just strong, it was borderline unfair. Kids who caught Mewtwo walked around like they had the Infinity Gauntlet. Over time, Mewtwo kept evolving, not literally, though it got megas later, but thematically. Instead of fading into nostalgia, it became a symbol of raw potential and emotional depth in a franchise that, let's be real, sometimes leans very goofy. Mewtwo is like the older, wiser presence in the Pokémon world. Quiet, isolated, always thinking, always questioning. It isn't drawn to friendship the way other Pokémon are. It's not interested in being cute or marketable. It moves with purpose. It speaks with intention. And it carries the weight of its existence like someone who's been through things you can't even begin to imagine. When Mega Evolutions came around in X and Y, Mewtwo got not one but two forms, just like Charizard. Mega Mewtwo X goes full warrior monk, muscular, imposing, physical. It's like the genetic lab said, let's make it psychic and jacked. Meanwhile, Mega Mewtwo Y leans into pure psychic destruction, frail but absurdly powerful, like a brain with a body attached. Those two forms reflect the two sides of Mewtwo's character, the fighter and the thinker. Strength and intellect, rage and reflection. But Mewtwo's influence didn't stop at games and movies. In the real world, it became one of the most instantly recognizable Pokémon ever created. You show someone a silhouette of Pikachu, Charizard, or Mewtwo, and they'll nail it instantly. Mewtwo has that sleek, alien-like design that just sticks in your memory. Its tail curves like it's always in motion. Its eyes glow with calculating intensity. And its overall shape feels like it's meant to be unsettling. Just human enough to be familiar, but just alien enough to remind you it's not one of us. That design wasn't an accident. Mewtwo is meant to challenge you, to make you think about the line between creation and creator, between nature and control, between what something is made for and what it chooses to become. Even in a world full of magical creatures, Mewtwo forces people to confront uncomfortable questions. And yet, despite all its coldness and philosophical intensity, there's something undeniably tragic about Mewtwo. It never asked to be born. It never asked to be powerful. It never asked to be feared. All it wanted, and all it still wants, is purpose. A place where its existence isn't defined by someone else. That's why its story hits hard even now. Deep down, everyone knows what it feels like to wonder who they're supposed to be. Is it edgy? Yeah, a little. But Mewtwo's edge isn't cringe. It's earned. Pokémon introduced thousands of creatures, but none have matched Mewtwo's emotional weight. It's a reminder that power doesn't solve loneliness, that intelligence doesn't guarantee belonging, and that even the strongest beings have questions they can't answer. The more you explore Mewtwo's role across the franchise, the more you see it as a mirror the creators use to reflect deeper themes. Freedom, identity, morality, nature versus artificiality. Most Pokémon stories are simple. Catch Pokémon, train them, become stronger. But Mewtwo throws a wrench into that pattern by asking, is that fair? Is that right? Is that enough? It forces the audience, even kids, to look at the world differently. And yet, despite everything, Mewtwo isn't cynical. It's not hopeless. The end of the first movie reveals that under all the armor and bitterness, Mewtwo is capable of empathy and growth. That's what makes it timeless. The loneliest, angriest creature in the franchise learns to let go and move forward. That hits on a spiritual level. In many ways, Mewtwo is the perfect example of what made early Pokémon storytelling feel so real. It wasn't afraid to get serious. It wasn't afraid to ask big questions, and it wasn't afraid to show a character confront pain head-on. Mewtwo's entire arc is a reminder that strength means nothing without understanding, and existence means nothing without choice. And maybe that's why Mewtwo still commands so much respect. It's not just powerful, it's meaningful. It's not just a threat, it's a character. And through decades of games, shows, movies, and remakes, Mewtwo has kept its place as one of the greatest creations in Pokémon history. Some Pokémon were made to sell toys, some were made to look cool. Mewtwo was made to challenge everything. 3 decades in, that challenge still stands. If you want, I can hit you with essays